In 2010, I auditioned for the Madison Scouts, and during that audition, we played this exercise for 3 straight hours. Let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? This is Brendan with Drum with BPM, and today I want to talk about this super simple but crucial exercise that we had to play on loop for 3 straight hours when we were going through auditions at Madison Scouts. I want to talk about why we played it, I want to talk about why it's important, and I want to talk about why you should play this exercise too. Alright, number 1. What is this magic exercise that they thought it was so important for us to play for 3 straight hours at such a slow tempo? It's called... One thing real quick, are you getting better? Like actually getting better as fast as you want to get better? If not, then you might need a little extra help. There's a million different YouTube channels, there's a million different resources online to sift through. And fortunately, I've done all that work for you. So come on over to Patreon and I can help you get to your next level fast. Check it out. Alright, let's get back into it. It's called check patterns. And if you're not familiar with check patterns, here is all the check patterns. There are 14 variations of check patterns. And these are all 16th note based. So these are 14 every possible rhythm that you could play with a 16th note. So the way that this exercise works is you play that top line, the check, and then you play the first variation, then you go back to the check, then you go to the second variation, then you go back to the check, and you go all the way down through 14 variations until you've played every possible rhythm in 16th notes. Now, why on earth would we spend 3 straight hours doing that at such a slow tempo? Number 1, if you are a part of a drum line, you need to have a clear, unanimous understanding of what 16th notes are. When you're a drum set player and you're playing by yourself, you have some flexibility. If you're playing with a band, you have a little less flexibility. You need to play squarely with the met, but there might be a little bit of room. It might not matter so much if you played one exactly the same every single time if you're playing by yourself. If you're playing with a band, and you're playing the same rhythm with the band members, then, with the guitarist, or if you're playing in a jazz group and you have hits at the same time as another instrument, then you better be locked in, and a metronome might be super important there. Or at the very least, you need to have a consistent understanding of what 16th notes sound like and what it feels like and how we're going to approach it. So at this audition, they took the whole group, everybody who was auditioning, and made them play this exercise together so that we would start to understand 16th notes perfectly with the metronome and that there would be no variation. Number 2, it's hard. As simple as this exercise is, and this is a simple exercise. Once you understand all the 16th note rhythms, there are only 14 variations. It's not complicated in the fact that there's a ton of different things to think about technique-wise. There's not a lot of changes. You're really just focusing on rhythm. So it's simple, yet it's pretty challenging, especially if you're playing at a slow tempo. Why? Because there's space. And you need to have a consistent approach on space. If you look at check pattern number 14, this is what it sounds like. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Alright, that's pretty much it. Now you might have noticed that there were a few times where I was not perfectly with the metronome, right? That's why we played this for 3 straight hours. Now that is the hardest variation because you're playing quarter notes. You need to play perfect quarter notes. That's the most amount of space you could have in this rhythm. There's every kind of 16 note variation in there, but there's less space. When there's more notes, there's less space. So less space means it's easier to control. You have more reference points. You have your foot, you have your left hand, or you have your right hand. But when you play just quarter notes, there's so much room for error. And if you heard a room full of 30, 40 drummers trying to do this at the exact same time, it would sound like it would be all sorts of flam kind of sounds. until eventually everyone locks in and you get to have a closer interpretation to downbeats and quarter notes. The other rhythms aren't as hard. The check pattern was often the most clean part of the whole exercise because there's very little room for error. There's very little space. There's almost no rest, only the eighth notes, right? Right? There's way less space than right? So the same thing goes for every other variation in there. So why should you spend time playing this exercise and mastering it like we did? If you want to have a consistent approach and a clear understanding of what 16th notes sound like, how they feel in your hand, an undeniable and unwavering approach to 16th notes, play this on loop for a very long time and you will become a human metronome. We've all seen those drummers, regardless if they're in the marching world or they're drum set players, that just seem like they play with a metronome that's just built into their head. This is why, because they play things like this and they understand the rhythmic approach. I mean, or they're just brilliant drummers that just happen to be really great and they never played this once. But that was not the case for me. I did not have that kind of natural ability. I had to learn this by beating it into my hands and beating it into my brain with reps and reps and reps and reps and reps. So if you want that unshakable approach to 16th notes to become a human metronome, you should play this on loop too. Another reason to play this, if you are a beginner and you're looking to understand 16th notes and learn every possible variation, play this. There are 14 variations that you can master. Learning the 1 E, to E, to E, 4 E, Learning check pattern threes. 1 E, 2 and 1 E, 2 and 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 and. Learning check pattern tens. E, 2 and E, 2 and E, E, 2 and. Check pattern 13. 2 and 2 and 2 and. Right? There's a lot of space. There's a lot of different rhythms for you to learn in these simple check patterns, and it's well worth your time to make sure you understand every possible variation that you can do with a 16th note and learn how to play it squarely, perfectly with a metronome. Another thing you can do with this exercise, if you are looking to build bass drum chops, play this exercise with your bass drum foot exclusively. Imagine how challenging it can be if you were playing that with your right foot. If you could go through every single check pattern with your left foot keeping time, maybe keeping eighth notes, and you can play, imagine this is your right foot, and you can play 1 E, 2 and 3 E, 4 and 1 E, 2 E, 1 E, 2 and. Right? Imagine you could play perfectly with your bass drum foot along with your hi-hat foot. You would get such a strong understanding of rhythms and how to rely on your left foot. Your right foot could begin to not only get chops, but understand how to play things rhythmically accurate with your left foot. There's another great use for this. Another reason this is useful is because drummers know check patterns, and they say, oh, we're going to play this with the check pattern 6. And if you don't know what the check pattern 6 is, you're not going to know what they're talking about. The first 4 are really easy to memorize, and I'll give you the secret. You have 4 partials in the 16th note. Check pattern 1 means the first note is missing. Check pattern 2 means the second partial is missing. Check pattern 3 means the third partial is missing. And check pattern 4 means the fourth partial is missing. So you get all of those basic 16th note rhythms knocked out right there. After that, you just kind of have to learn the pattern, but the first 4 are super easy to memorize. So if you want to get a head start, there you go. There's a little bit of a secret for you. And why did we play this so slowly? Well, to master space, like we were talking about. Why is this challenging? It's challenging because of space. If we played this at 100 beats a minute, there would be far less space because it's a faster tempo, and it wouldn't be as hard. If you want to make this really hard, play it down at like 40 beats a minute. Then you have a great understanding of rhythm. You know how to subdivide in your brain. But listen, here's the difference. This is 80 beats per minute. Let's double that. Here we go. If you play it faster, it's a different exercise and it serves a different purpose. The purpose we were using it for was space and understanding how to control space and rely on your feet and become a human metronome. If you're playing faster, there's tons of different exercises, there's tons of different things to do for that, and you can certainly play this at faster tempos if you want to. If you want to play this from 60 beats all the way to 200 beats per minute, go for it. That is not a bad use of your time, although most people use this exercise to control space, so it's usually played at a slower tempo. But hey, if you want to take it to 200, 220, go for it. Alright, so there you go. There's the exercise we played. That's why we played it, and hopefully that convinced you that you should learn this exercise as well. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever run into this before, or if you've ever played this exercise, or if there are any other exercises like this that you've played that have helped you get to another level. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.